But now it's time to welcome our guests for tonight. So please give a warm welcome to Pete, Matt, Nan, Carrie, and Conrad. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Thanks for
Hello.
joining
Good
us.
evening.
How's it going?
Can we start tonight by just having you introduce yourselves to our audience here at home? Maybe tell them what your connection to the film is, how you got involved there. Pete, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, you bet. My name is Pete Peterson, also known as A.S. Peterson. If you spot something that I've written that probably says A.S. Peterson. But I am the playwright. I adapted this story for the stage, and then I was the producer for the film. And it all happened about 7 years ago back in Houston. And I can tell that full story later, but at the moment, I think we want to meet everybody else. Matt?
Yes, I'm Matt Logan, and I am director of the stage play and designer of the piece that you're going to see. Nan?
I'm Nan Gurley. I'm Nan Gurley, and I play Corrie ten Boom.
Amazing.
I'm Carrie Tillis, and I played Betsie ten Boom.
And I'm Conrad Schuck, and I play the father of these two beautiful women. And my character's name was
Papa.
Ten Boom.
Caspar ten Boom.
Caspar.
Caspar.
Thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. So as kind of mentioned earlier, and for those of you just joining us at home, this film and this play was actually first a book by Corrie ten Boom. So I kind of want to start kind of talking about tonight just that the origin, where it came from. So Pete, I just want to start with a question for you. You kind of alluded to having a little bit more of the story here, but can you tell us about how you got involved in writing this? Had you read the book? Can you tell us what drew you in maybe to this story and tell us just a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So, like I said, about 7, 8 years ago, a good friend of mine named Jake Spack was working at a theater company down in Houston called AD Players. It happened to have been a theater company that was founded by a woman named Jeanette Cliff George, who happened to have played Corrie ten Boom in the movie by the Billy Graham Association back in the 1970s, and went on to have a venerable career in the theater community of Houston. And when she passed away, they built the George Theater in her honor. And soon after that, they commissioned me to adapt her the book into a new stage adaptation, kind of in honor of Jeanette Cliff George. Which, it was funny. Jake called me and said, "Hey, would you be interested in working on this?" And I said, "Well, hold on, let me go read the book first," because I honestly had never read it and wanted to make sure that it felt like it was the kind of story that, I would be equipped to tell. So I went home that weekend, read the book, and it just kind of blew me away. And I came back and said, "Absolutely, please, I would love to work on this." And, that was one thing led to another, and here we are.
Wow, that's amazing. Was there any sense of responsibility or anything that you, when adapting such a sacred true story like that, what kind of process did you have to go through while writing that?
I think I've often told people that, I told Jake yes on the phone, and then I hung up the phone and thought about it for a minute, and I said, "What have I done?" Because, I was so aware that the book was beloved. It's been a bestseller for 50 years.
Yeah.
Everywhere I go, I run into people who have met Corrie ten Boom, and they have stories about her, and they adore her, and the book has changed their lives. And I realized that, well, if I'm going to add myself to kind of, this storytelling tradition and find a way to tell it in my own way, it's got to be done in a way that honors all of that. And so I had the benefit, thankfully, of working with the folks down at 80 Players who knew Corrie personally, who knew Jeanette personally, and there was just this wealth of knowledge. So I felt like I was between guardrails, and if I was getting something wrong, I was in the context of people who could tell me that.
Oh, that's great.
And if I was getting something right, I was in the context of people who could tell me that as well. And so I'm really grateful for having had the benefit of those people.
Oh, that's great. That's really cool that they had that kind of a connection to that story too. That's really kind of special
Yeah,
to be able to work with them. That's awesome.
yeah.
So Matt, you were the
Hmm.
director. Um, I would love kind of a similar vein for you. Did you read the memoir? Did that shape kind of your vision as the director for the adaptation, or can you tell us a little bit about how you got involved?
Yeah. I think like many of us that you're going to hear this sort of many year lifetime draw to this piece. And
Yeah.
I know in 10th grade, we read The Hiding Place
Mm-hmm.
in my high school. And that was one of my first introductions. And then I remember my mom showing us the film. And the film had a profound effect on me. One of the things I remember is being so captivated. When you're young, different things captivate you. And I remember the little nook, but in the film, nook, they hid the money in the stairs, and the way it felt like the compartmentalization of the home and the idea of hiding. And all of that was so compelling to me as a young child. And it was only later that I knew the context with which that fascination was in. I could sense the power of the film as a child, but I didn't see the full depth of it. And I think now coming back to it, I even remember when I was sort of, I'm dating myself, but when I was filling out my DVD collection, I ran across The Hiding Place one day and bought it because I remembered
Yeah.
it so profoundly. Those faces were just burned in my brain, and those images. And that was probably 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had it, and I've always had a fondness for the recollection of this film and book. And so as we came back to this, it really started when Pete was like, "Hey, I'm doing this adaptation. I'd love for you to come see it." And of
Mm.
course, Nan was starring in it at that time. And so I was thrilled to come see what Pete was working on, and Nan as well. And I got to see the out of town tryout. And even at that out of town tryout, do you like that I gave it that name? Um, the out of town production, I do not want to sound dismissive of anything, the first iteration. And when I went to dinner with Pete that night, it was he and his wife, we were sitting there talking. And I remember I was like, "Pete, I mean, I'd love to bring this to Nashville, but how? I'm no longer, I didn't have the company that I had originally was doing some work with. And I was like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
independent, and I don't know how it's going to happen." And I think I even said to Pete something like, I don't want to take credit, Pete, but I think I said, "Why doesn't Rabbit Room do it?" And so there was a bit of leaning into, as Pete was like, "Well, let me talk to people at Rabbit Room." And
Yeah.
so really
I should
the
say, I'll
company
jump in
that,
and say the Rabbit Room is the
yeah,
organization that I work with. It's an art and faith organization in Nashville. And before Matt brought this up, we had not even really thought about doing theater internally. So,
Oh,
yeah, it's all Matt's fault.
good job, Matt.
well, I had the ease of just saying the idea. Pete had the weight of getting in front of the board and convincing them of something, a real act of faith, if you want to talk about faith.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's kind of where it started. And then from there, when Pete had gotten such positivity from his board, he was like, let's really look at this. And like we said, COVID interrupted a lot of that. And then it gave us time to do many workshops and start casting locally and just saying, okay, who? And everyone who's on this call immediately were people that came to our minds as I mean, I remember saying when we saw this version that Nan was starring in, and I was like, the only Betsie I can think of is Carrie Tillis. And I said, she just exudes such light and positivity. And it's something that I think is magical. And then when we jumped to thinking of Papa, I was like, I mean, John, we call him John, but Conrad is just not only a legend of stage and screen, but a dear friend and a colleague in Nashville that we'd all worked together. And it was like, I mean, this is perfect. This is ideal.
Yeah.
And that's where we started doing a bunch of workshops and really bantering, throwing it around. Pete deals with all our questions and all our challenges, and so many
You guys
things
all
of
make
what.
it better.
But
Oh,
at that point, I'm kind of going a
Mm.
long arch. I'm sorry, but
that's
at that
okay.
point, that's when I start sifting through and thinking how it's going to look on stage,
Yeah.
and I don't do any more research at that point because I let
Okay.
Pete do the research.
Yeah.
Sometimes I will, but I really want to stage what is being given to me. Um, and then there are times where I can say, we're missing something. Hey, Pete, you're so familiar with all the material. Is there something, is there something that can get us into these glances, to this, to this, to this?
Mm,
I heard this. What I think of myself more as like a therapist to the piece. Uh, and Pete is the solution. And so if it hits him and inspires him, he comes up with it. And I'll never forget, Nan, you may remember this, the opening when we were longing for an opening that was some sort of piece that just kind of went, boom, this is what we're doing. And the first day we read it, I mean, we just like, everybody sat back in our chair and was like, well, there you go. I mean, Pete just nailed it. And it was like, we had wanted it for
And
a
that was it.
while. It was kind of
Yeah,
a
that
cool
was
thing.
about the 10th opening scene that we had written, and nothing was working. Yeah.
oh wow.
And so it was a series of problems. So then, ultimately, my involvement from there turned into the next thing would be actually rehearsing, producing, and mounting the entire piece here in Nashville.
Wow. That's incredible.
And you designed the set.
Yes, I did the
You
set and
Yeah.
costume.
did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's not let Matt sell himself short.
I know.
Matt
I was like,
Which was
was he
the
sews
doing
the
dress
was the
costumes,
that?
character
designs the
himself.
costumes, designs the set. He's just a man of many talents, and I don't
Matt.
know what we'd do without him.
Oh my
Well, we were
Look at
goodness.
very
the
fortunate.
colors. The colors are incredible.
Oh my
And,
gosh.
I have to take a moment and just say, in their kindness towards me, you are only as good as your tools and your people and your company. And not only as actors, but when we talk about our lighting designer, Stephen Moss, who's worked with me for over 15 years, when we talk about everything the Matulas are talking about, that's a whole subject. The Matulas is a huge subject. And that's where a lot of the look of every piece I do starts with Tony Matula and I. He's the graphic designer at first.
Mhm.
And we just are trying to get the poster. So we start with that poster and its colors and its ideas and its thoughts. And later it's going to turn into so many things, but it's just palette and feel. And so it's a really cool process. There's Tony right there with the rig on.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
and Laura right there in the middle. And
Yeah.
Laura directed the film portion and all the editing of the piece. And
Okay.
they are just, there's no way to even look at this piece without thinking the tremendous gifts that they brought to all of it.
Wow.
But yeah, with the set and the costumes, I mean, the big thing was when we knew that we were going to do a filming.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, Pete, the set has to change. We have to wow people. We cannot do something simple to just do a really successful minimal theater run here in Nashville. We now have to do something powerful. And thankfully, again, a testament to faith and great power, Pete was able to help do that, because it was like, man, this is going to cost. It's not cheap.
Mm-mm.
And the great set builder for me, Mitch
Yeah.
White, who built this marvelous thing. So, and Lauren, who painted it. I mean, there's just so many people.
Yeah. I mean, and it was incredible watching it, third party watching it. I was blown away by, I mean, the acting, the story, but like the set and the transitions. And oh, it was so good. And even the colors that
Thank
you
you.
guys chose to use in the lighting, like it all helps you feel the different emotions. So it felt very well
Good.
thought through. I don't know. It was awesome.
Thank you.
Was that borderline
Hey,
fangirling
Allie,
on the stream? Yeah.
yes, I'm
Mm.
going to help you fangirl. I'm going to help you fangirl a little more on
Okay.
Matt
Let's do
and
it.
thinking through the details.
Yeah.
When Betsie and Corrie are sent to Ravensbrück concentration camp,
Yeah.
we changed costumes, of course, and
Yeah.
we had prison dress, and we had the head wrap. Now, early in Act 1, Matt establishes the fact that my colors are reds, wine colors, the warm tones, and Betsie's are cooler tones, the blues and the greens.
Yeah.
Only somebody who is really watching, who has a design eye like Matt, would have noticed this. But in Ravensbrück, our headscarves, he, in his own washing machine in his own house, he washed my headscarf in a little bit of red dye, and and Carrie's headscarf in a little bit of a bluish green tint, so that while we're doing all our scenes in the concentration camp, the color scheme that he designed for both of us is hinted at in our headscarves.
Oh my
And
gosh.
there's this one moment where Carrie and I are on our bunk bed in Ravensbrück, and Carrie realizes that the reason the guards don't come in Barracks 28 is because it's flea-ridden. And when we realized that, we had this moment of laughter, and it happened spontaneously, but we bent our heads down and our heads touched, our foreheads touched. And you have this beautiful view of the slight red tint in mine and the slight green tint in hers. And that's the kind of touch, that's the kind of detail that Matt always pays attention to. And so, I mean, he's a joy. He's a joy to work with as a director. So
Thank you.
that's just a
That's
little tidbit.
amazing.
And
I didn't
nobody,
know that. That's great.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, see, it's because you don't pay attention, Pete. That's why.
They're outing
Well, we
you.
had, I mean, the challenge was faced with us because we have multiple decades. We actually had the children, as you know.
Yeah.
We had Nan and Carrie playing the characters, but then when they go to Ravensbrück, everybody looks the same.
Right.
So it was like, oh, we just can't lose the thread of story in these ways. And in particular, Nan, even when you put the scarf on, that is both the blending at the end of both the warm
Yes.
tone and the green, and that was there's architecture in that, and it's a joy. That's when people ask me to direct and not design, I'm like, then you're keeping me out of those conversations with these beautiful actors where we get to discover and find meaning, and it doesn't just happen when you're sitting alone in a room. It's in process. And
This
then
is
you feel
one
it.
of the things I so love about the creative process, especially in theater. Like, I'm the guy that writes. I write the words, and then it's out of my hands. But like, I pay really particular attention to every single word, and there are nuances woven throughout the script that many people will never know. It's just there for me because it's how I'm telling the story. And so I love that Matt, like, he has exactly the same artistic sensibility. Only it's not necessarily with words; it's with colors. And architecture and all of that. And even though I never knew that little fact that he just shared, or that Nan just shared, it's built in there, and it works subconsciously to tell the story in a way that viewers, I think, feel, even if they can't articulate.
Yeah.
I'll tell you something really interesting too.
Yeah.
As actors, we were so set up to succeed because every night, we were on this revolving set. We had a world of these pie pieces, and we would filter into the different rooms as the set would spin, and we embodied this. It was just like being in this fishbowl at times, and we were so linked into each other, so connected, and really paying attention. But there were moments when in that set, the front of the home there is the clock shop. And there are clocks everywhere. They're surrounding us. So you come in and you open the door and you hear the little bell on the door, and there's clocks everywhere. And as a scene would shift and you would, and the set would move, we would find a place to just kind of hold on while the set would spin while we were on it.
Oh my
And you would
goodness.
be quiet. And all of a sudden, the mechanisms in the clock, you would hear little chimes and little tinkling of the mechanism, and it was magical. Talk about being in the moment and never wanting to break out of the magic of live theater and putting on the costume and the set. I mean, we were in it, and there's so much mutual admiration for each Pete's writing, Nan and John, the acting, Matt's big sky vision. He sees everything, all of the touches. We love each other. So it's just this, the whole piece is just, we get to embody this beautiful artistic thing, and the fact that we get to, tell the story in this way, and it's really worthy.
Yeah. I love
Yeah.
that. That's so magical. Something that, we wouldn't know. And to picture
Right.
you guys kind of, you're still there. You're still on the set.
Mhm.
You're hiding. I don't know. But
Yeah.
that's it's really cool to hear about that. So thanks for sharing
I
that
mean,
with
that's
us.
live, and we had the luxury, we did
Yeah.
the play first, we did the
Yeah.
live version, and nothing compares to live theater.
Yeah.
But then, lo and behold, we get to do this film.
Yeah.
And the other gratifying piece of that is so many more people get to see it, but then we get to see it. We never get to see
I
ourselves,
know.
and so to be able to come back and see a filmed version of this, and to see emotion up close that we felt in the moment,
Yeah.
and then to watch it, it's extremely moving.
Wow.
And
I
there's
have a
something
funny
to.
story. I have a
Go.
funny story to tell on Carrie. She's, she referenced the revolving stage,
Yeah.
and people who see the film understand that part of it was a circle, a wagon, we called it, and part of it was the clock shop, part of it was the dining room, and then part of it became Ravensbrook. So part of it, and then it would become a train, a railroad car on the way to Ravensbrook, and it twirled, and it was a little discombobulating. And we would there we are,
You're taking a break right there.
right there. So it would twirl, and we would go from one room to the next. And while we were shooting the movie, I remember hearing Carrie in the darkness. She was somewhere on the wagon, I don't know, but we had to stop, and she yelled out, "I don't even know where I am."
I was afraid, I was going to come out a door and I'd be in the kitchen, and I wasn't supposed to be in the kitchen. It was terrifying at first till we learned our pattern.
And that seemed so weird to me. And then one night during the show, I went backstage and just walked on the side, and I looked over, and it was not the pie piece I thought I was going to see. And it shook me, and I was like, oh, I get it. Because I just walking on stage, and I turned, and I was not expecting to see that portion of the pie piece. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh, it's changing on us constantly. Got it.
Oh my goodness.
And then you
Um,
add to that the complexity of worrying every night that the turntable wouldn't work. And like if in the middle of the show the motor ran out and it wouldn't work,
Yes.
like, okay, what do we do if that happens? Because the show's
Yeah.
not going to stop,
That's a good
But
That
it
was
always
when-
works.
Yeah.
Sweet Webb worked out an entire sheet of like, okay, if this happens, this is who's going to help push the turntable at this point.
Oh gosh.
He did a whole diagram of like, if it happens,
Yeah.
this is.
I mean, that's smart.
I will say that we had one backstage person who was very competent and one that I was fearful of. And so I was like, Webb, so I'm not worried every single night. Can you make a sheet of what happens so that we're not relying on the person who concerns me a bit? And he did. He
That's
did.
amazing. That's
But the
awesome.
funny thing is, it's a small theater community here.
Yeah.
We love each other dearly, and the whole reason. Anytime I've worked with Pete and Matt before, and anytime that and Nan, and anytime that they say it jump, I jump, and.
Yeah.
It was a no-brainer, no matter how daunting, Pete was talking about how daunting the idea of the story is, and it is, but it's such a worthy story to tell. My mom was always, she was an artist, and she said, it's important what you put out there, what you make. I mean, we have a responsibility as storytellers to, what we put out there is very important. And the minute they asked, it was just, it was a no-brainer. And the challenge for my character, for Betsie, can you make that believable? Can you make such undeterred love and a character who always saw such beauty in everything, and the flowers and this lovely green scarf that she picks up, and the possibility of this rusty little pail, the same beauty and possibility that she saw in the good things she saw in people who were hateful and destructive. And her center was solid. She was just love through and through. So she was so consistent, and that was just such a beautiful challenge in front of me, to get out of my way and the way I process things, and to say, try that on for size.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that a little bit.
Yeah, of course.
Carrie, I worried about believability. And to be truthful, the first few times we read through the play, I just didn't see myself in the part. And I really had no identification with it until about the fourth read through. I began to not just think linearly. I used to think like this. So, pardon my inability to speak here. But something I remember. It was the first time I really listened to the words of a grace that is said early in the play at breakfast. Now, here is a man who is a mechanic. He's a watchmaker. He sees time differently, and it's manifested in a watch that he's working on at the time. And he's obviously very good at it. So there's that aspect. But he's also a man of faith. And we get to this grace where he begins by addressing God and saying, "You know what makes the world spin." And he talks about atoms. And then he moves to thanking God for the grace to have given them on their table marmalade. This is an extraordinary concept where he takes the cosmos and applies it to a jar of jam. And that jam is every bit as important, and we should be as grateful for that grace as our lives. So I thought, I think I can do something with that rather than this linear thinking of. And once I was able to make that connection, which is an emotional connection as well as an intellectual one, and then I was almost convinced that I had to do it. And then for some reason we had pictures taken early. And seeing those pictures that Matula took that day, there was the character. We were all there. And that was it. We didn't have to worry about acting. You just went out there, and we were. And that's what it was a great experience. I still haven't quite got over that we, A, did it, and B, did it so, I think, very, very well.
Wow.
That was a conversation.
Thank you.
No, one thing that's really interesting for each one of you, actors and writer, to speak about, Ali, if I can be so bold,
Absolutely.
is coming from the novel and coming from the words of Corrie. When you hear Corrie describe her sister and her father, the only thing you can say is nobody is that perfect. Nobody on this planet could be that perfect. And then when you look at the way, as Pete mentioned earlier, the reverent sainthood that so many people have put on Corrie, and you think, these people can't be so how can you play a human that is so squeaky clean that you can't relate to? And so I think what's interesting is in the hands of Pete's writing and in the hands of each one of these masters and their performance, they had to find the human element amongst this person that is so lauded and loved. And yet it's not finding a darkness to them. It's just finding the human. And it was something we talked a lot about in the process. in the piece, and really, I would say up until the very end, all three of the performers walked that line quite beautifully.
Wow. Thank you
It
for
was
sharing that.
interesting too to find humor, and there were an amazing number of humorous moments where you would not expect it, even in the
Yeah.
prison camp. And
Well, that's a funny. It's always
it's
been
almost
funny to
shocking.
me. Well, I
Go
think
ahead,
this
Pete.
always happens in theater to some extent, but like during rehearsals, especially in like the opening kind of dinner, breakfast, I guess,
Yes.
around the table, like, I think that thing is full of humor and full of jokes and little family interactions that are super funny.
Uh-huh.
But like when you're playing it to a dry house and rehearsal, none of that's apparent. And like,
Yes.
we would run through a scene and I'd go over to Matt and I was like, I don't think they understand that this is supposed to be funny. And that was true to some extent, I think. But then on opening night, when the audience was there all of a sudden, and it was like, oh, they're all laughing. Oh, we get it now. It's funny. And just to watch it all come to life like that was absolutely delightful from the
It's a
house.
joy to do that. Yeah.
Yeah,
That
it was
scene
great.
was one of my favorites. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. So kind of
Yeah.
continuing, I feel like we've transitioned, a little from the book into the stage play here. I would love to hear from our talent just about connecting with their individual characters, with your characters, and maybe we'll start with you, Nan. How did portraying or performing this night after night shape the way you connected with your character? Was it different from, the first time to the last time, your relationship with your character? Can you tell me about that a little bit?
Yes, well, it's a joy to get to perform something multiple times.
Yeah.
Because if you're the kind of actor that is always in the moment, always making discoveries, that means that your performance will mature through the run.
Yeah.
And you will, and of course the audience doesn't realize this all the time, but they are a player. And when you start to get a feel for moments where the audience needs time to respond, it informs the rhythm of your delivery. But one thing that affected me was the soundscape of World War II.
Yeah.
And the Houston production leaned into this more heavily than our national production. It was just, an artistic choice on their part. But through that run, I understood for the first time how surviving World War II, the people, your average people, like the Ten Boom family, what they heard every day. They heard planes going over. They heard bombs going off. They heard marching in the streets. They heard angry Nazis screaming at people. They heard, sirens. They heard screaming. There was a component of sound that had to have worn them down day after day and night after night. The sounds really never stopped. They went on through the night. Air raids. It was an exhausting time. It was a time of an onslaught on all your senses at all times. Besides the fact that, the house that when they joined the underground, built the hiding place and joined the underground, their home became like a bus stop. And Corrie was the ringleader of it, and she spent a lot of her time every day on the phone coordinating either a new person coming into the hiding place or a person in the hiding place moving on to another safe house. And so she would answer the phone and they would speak in code with one another. And somebody would say, I have a watch that needs repair. When can I drop it by? Which was code for, I have another Jew that needs a place to hide for a few days. Can I bring them over and when can I? And she would get on the phone and she would call someone and say, your watch is repaired. You need to come and get it this afternoon around 5. And that was code for, we have found another place. You've got to take this person on so we can make room for someone else. So it was this beehive of activity, exhausting activity, day and night, this sound, this unrelenting sound. and and of course, Betsie was spending her time trying to make meager rations stretch to, maybe they had 10 people in the house at the time, and she had to use her ration cards and the ones that were stolen for us to try to make ends meet for all these people she had to feed. So I tried to inform my performance with a level of exhaustion that had to have been on this woman, while at the same time trying to deliver the lines with power and energy. So she was pushing through, always pushing through, and leaning on a strength that she didn't have on her own without the Lord's help. She could never have done it.
Yeah.
So that helped me bring a realism, a physicality to Corrie. That she was in her 50s when they went through this. She was not a spring chicken. So, they were just their day-to-day hospitality was a heroic move that was part. This is a large part of the joy of telling the story.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I thought you did a wonderful job, and I don't know, you didn't ever think, oh, she's acting. Like you were just drawn in. I felt all of that when I was watching it. So excellent job. And again, thanks for sharing kind of your process through that. Yeah. Carrie, were there any particular scenes for you during the stage run that stood out to you or stick with you to this day?
Every page, I mean, really, there was so much, but I'll tell you something that happened. And you're talking about, your question pertains to the play, right? Not the movie, because I have something that happened during the movie run that was different from the play.
Ooh.
That struck me like a ton of bricks.
Yeah.
So I'll just go ahead and share that.
That's great.
There's a lovely moment, excuse me, where we're doing, we've received a package somehow and hidden its communion, and we're able to have communion in the barracks, and it's such a gift. So during the play, we have a limited number of characters, and for the filming, we needed to bring a little bit more of the reality of the barracks into play. Excuse me. So we supplemented, many, many women and children came in for the filming. And as Matt mentioned previously,
I think we
did the
added
filming of this
10.
But it was 10
to that
women
one.
I had never seen.
Mm-hmm.
So it's already an emotional scene, the fact that we're able to do the communion in secret in the barracks.
Yeah.
So during the filming, all of a sudden, basically we're like, we're on the time, we're on the clock. All of a sudden we're moving to this next scene, we're getting into place, and all of a sudden I hear footsteps behind me getting into place, but I don't turn around. Basically it's in places and go, right?
Yeah.
So we start the filming, and I go to break the cracker and go around to these faces, and all of a sudden, and each of the women have this coat, this treacherous just coat like smock on, and then this scarf. So all you see is this unadorned face and eyes.
Wow.
And to turn around and look at a new shape, a new face, a new soul, and these eyes one at a time, and to see beauty, and here's another life, and here's another life, and another valuable, soul, like they all counted, and I just kept going to one after the other, and I was so moved, and I had to stretch these crackers out all of a sudden now to all of these women.
Yeah.
And at the end, I remember just I choked, and I'm saying the end of it, and it so got me. But every single one of those women were beautiful and they were valued and they were all deserving of the hope that gave them. And and just think of that multiplied. It was the chance that I got to think of how many souls were in those camps, how many. And it was just the overwhelming multiplied, and then the gift of what we were giving that could also be multiplied up and outside of that camp. So it was quite a moment.
Oh my goodness. That is so special.
Can I add a little detail?
Absolutely.
So some people have asked, like, where did that scene come from? Because it's not in the book.
Yeah.
And so when I was doing research to write or to adapt the play, my wife and I went to Germany, went to Ravensbrück concentration camp. And in the museum there's a lot of art by former prisoners. And some of it is even art that they found sewn into their clothes and those kind of things. But one of the pieces of art that I saw that really struck me was it was a drawing of these women in the barracks doing exactly that. Someone had smuggled in via the Red Cross the host for communion, and they were disseminating it to one another. And it was just unbelievably beautiful, about what it said about the capacity of people to celebrate something beautiful and meaningful in the context of the darkest thing of the 20th century. And it just moved me to tears. And that was also coupled with some of the prayers that they had found on prisoners' bodies that would say things like, and I'm paraphrasing because I can't remember exactly, but it would say things like, bless, or when we have passed on, may the love that we have found with our sisters here cover over the sins of the people who put us here. And that's such an incredible thing to pray for. It's here in Nashville, where I live in a comfortable house, it's really hard for me to reason my way to that kind of perspective. And that's what I loved writing about in the context of this show, is trying to figure out, how can we make sense of people who have come to these kinds of conclusions in unimaginable circumstances? And ultimately, I think the conclusion that I came to as a writer is, I think maybe it's just our job to listen to them. They've been someplace that we haven't. And I cannot go there. I cannot experience that. And so in that context, I think it's really important that we listen to what those people have the conclusions that they've come to and the kind of lessons that they've learned, because I don't have access to that in my daily life.
Yeah. Wow.
I'd like to add something to the point Pete is making here.
Yeah.
I think the largest takeaway I have from this whole experience of studying the lives of the Tin Booms is that they did not see themselves as victims. Their whole futures had been, all of their plans for life had been hijacked by World War II. But they saw their situation as an opportunity. Instead of it being a prison, for Betsie and Corrie, it was a pulpit. Instead of their home being invaded by strangers 24/7, it was an opportunity to share the love of Christ with strangers. They had no victim mindset. They looked at it all as an opportunity, as a platform to share the love of Jesus. And that, as Pete said, we don't really have any context for understanding that kind of testing. But that's the biggest takeaway I will ever have from this beautiful experience of telling this story. It's my own personal application.
Wow.
And they did it for complete strangers.
Yeah.
Just complete strangers that obviously in the research, the family, it was interesting, in that living room of that home, 100 years before, they had started praying for the Jewish people. And that was way before any of them were born that were a part of this. And yet it was praying for the Jewish people and also praying for nameless people. They did not get to, we struggled with this. They did not get to know every Jewish person that came through their home. They did not get to do much more than that one moment, and yet it mattered. It mattered all the same. It's very different when we say they hid their friends, but they were sacrificing so much for people they did not even know. And that says a lot.
Yeah. There's
Just a lot.
I think
yeah. Go ahead, Pete.
what the other thing that I think is really remarkable is in the context of war, most people find themselves looking around for a weapon to pick up. And the weapon that the Ten Boom family picked up was hospitality. You know,
Yeah.
like who thinks of that? You know, we don't think in those terms most of the time, but maybe we should.
Yeah.
And John, I don't know if you and Nan want to talk about this, but one of my favorite moments that I was eternally shook by the story and two great artists is the scene where you collapse in his arms, Nan, your papa. And between the two of you, I was like, what is reality and what? I mean, every time it was so real and it was tangible. And it both broke my heart and inspired me in the same time. And it didn't matter if it was just in rehearsal or in every performance. But that, and then when you bookend that for the very end of the film in the last moment, and Papa is out there and he looks back.
Well, definitely, without going into too personal a thing here, the quality of the storytelling and the production, everything that led up to that scene, is what makes it believable. Unless we've done a good job up to that point, it's going to be a nice moment, but that'll be it, I think. But both Nan and I felt something very deep. And we've talked about it a little bit. Especially after a couple of drinks at your place, Pete. For the cast party.
Well, Papa,
But we have.
Papa, let me give him.
We've talked about it a few times. But we never did during the production. We just did it.
Yeah.
Well, Papa, let me give our listeners a context that where this moment happened that Matt loves so much. You and I got to be alone at the dining room table in this moment, which was rare. And I said, Papa, what are we doing? I'm scared. And you reminded me that this is thanks to Pete's writing. You reminded me that when I was a little girl and you and I would take trips on the train to go see Tante Jan's, you asked me, when did I give you the ticket? I gave it to you right before you boarded the train. And in the same way, no matter what happens, our Heavenly Father will give you exactly what you need right at the moment you need it. And then I started to break down, and then you, and thanks a lot, Pete, for this, you called me by my full name. And that always got to me, to hear you say my full, Cornelia Arnolda Johanna Ten Boom, in that beautiful voice of yours. And you started coming toward me, and hearing my father, my earthly father, say my full name, brought home the point that my Heavenly Father knew my full name too.
Wow.
And I think that's why the moment was so powerful.
Wow.
Yes, I always felt it was a moment to let you know that you had been seen, both divinely as well as humanly. Yeah. Good.
Oh.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting us in on that special moment. That's so special.
Well, and I think it's a testament. I want to go back to why Rabbit Room, Pete, thankfully, but why Rabbit Room has started to venture into this theater world. And you're looking at people that we are a family here. You know, when you look at the group that we got to work with, and there were newbies, there were baby newbies that we didn't know and got to know. But when you look at this connecting tissue of people and the history and the love, the support, you know, even among people like just having Rona and Christy and Anna Claire and Chip and Matt Carlton, and we just list all these beautiful faces and these exquisite people. I mean, when Nashville did a press release, they said, "Good God, you've left nothing for anyone else," because this cast was just the creme de la creme. And people said that over and over, and it really was. And Nat, I mean, you just talk about these greats, and what I love is that there is an element that we can't act. There is an element of human that actors have that you can't act. And when you're talking about community and when you're talking about being a human, those are the things that we look for as Pete and I sit behind the table and look for actors to join the company and to join the feeling. And we need them to show up with their full hearts, their full minds, and full vulnerability. And I think it's why we can grab onto each other and go, we walked through life together. We walked through emotion. We walked through a time that we will never forget. As if we had walked through, as if we had gone to Ravensbrück as a group collectively and held hands and walked through it. The emotions feel that way because of the bravery of those going on the journey.
Yeah, that was beautifully said. Well, and before the live stream, we kind of got to meet each other for a minute there. And even in that moment, I was like, someone mentioned that it had been a minute since, you guys were together and did this show, but I could feel that connection that you all had. And it felt like bringing just a family together, just a bunch of old pals that had that deep connection. So I think that's really special. And I thought you said that very beautifully, and I could feel it just joining you guys today. So that's really cool that kind of
Well, I think we piggyback that. Thank you. I think we piggyback that with drawing why it was filmed.
Yeah.
It was theater because of the reasons I said.
Yeah.
And then when we were offered the opportunity to film it, it became something else. And when you watch the performances of these three greats and others, they shifted.
Yeah.
They shifted from what we did on stage.
Yeah.
They shifted in the blink of an eye with zero preparation, except just knowing the story. And shifted for the camera in ways that I would have never dreamed possible in the timeline. But I think it led to the moments that Carrie talked about, that in that moment when all the extras, because we didn't have time to rehearse it and they just showed up, she was so in the moment and not just, well, I'm just checking in my 9 to 5 and I'm clocking through my emotional bracket. She was so in it. John was so in it. Nan was so in it.
Yeah.
That these things were able to reveal on screen. And what I like is the reason is sort of, I've always wanted to blur between film and stage.
Yeah.
And I like when we can do that. I like when the stage unfolds cinematically, and I like when screen appears theatrical. And I love that you noted that we kept the stage transitions in. We didn't just cut. We kept them in. They were part of it. I mean, when you watch Nan, when is the Nan? I think the first one, Nan, when you're coming to the breakfast table and the first time the set starts moving and you see the full arc from the shop door all the way to the table. And I heard audiences gasp in person, but I think also it's cool to capture that. And that was part of the storytelling. But what I love is that when you watch a lot of film that is, and I know, Allie, you watch a ton of it. When you watch where there's a lot of cuts, tons of cuts, then what you're watching is slivers of performances. But when our 15, sometimes 30-minute takes were captured, you're watching the artistry of actors in a different way.
Yep.
And I've seen it. There's a new Netflix series called Adolescence that blew me away in the way they shot it. I loved the way they shot this film. It's really rough, but I really love the way they shot it. And it reminded me of that in the way the daring takes and the long takes, which we do in theater. Because the first thing I said is there's no way you can do that long takes without theater artists.
Right.
To sustain those emotions, to arc the emotions. Yeah. John knows that, being so strong on stage and film. and he really pulled on both of those as his delivery. And I love that. I always said with John, I said it's 100% truthful every time.
Oh,
And John is a Klingon. We can't forget that.
Yeah. The real reason I liked this play was because there was no makeup.
Oh my
No
goodness.
prosthetics.
Well, we have a few questions from our audience that's been joining us
Oh yeah.
at home today that I would love to ask you guys. I think they're going to throw them up on the screen here for us. Let's see.
And Allie, I hope we haven't barreled through your show.
No, this is perfect. It's been exactly what we had hoped for. So that's great.
Oh, good.
That's a great question, and I will say, like, just because I don't get to be in the show, or I don't have to be in the show, I watch it almost every night. Like, I come away going, "Oh my gosh, we got to get all these people therapy," because it's so hard emotionally to go through it every night. It's just really heavy.
Yes.
I can tell
have a
Sue
hard
this
time.
in the. Oh, excuse me, Papa. You go ahead.
Let's.
Oh, no, very quick. I say I'm a little bit different than a lot of actors. I have no problems after a performance dropping the character. I do have a hard time dropping the character in rehearsal, and indeed try to live with it as much as possible. That's my process. But after the show,
Well,
no.
I can speak for the girls' dressing room.
Okay.
All of us ladies, as we left Ravensbrück and we're quickly taking off those horrible prison uniforms, somebody would always grab their phone and find "Don't Worry, Be Happy" or some wonderful song for us to listen to as we got out of wig and makeup. Do you remember that, Carrie?
Oh yes, and it was a godsend because we really needed something to shift that heavy energy.
Wow.
And we needed to laugh and get happy immediately after, and then we had to go home, and I remember it was a very necessary routine also. Shower off and let it go down the drain. But it took a few weeks. I will say, we worked months also on accents. We worked on Dutch. So every now and then I'd catch a little, shush thing that kept coming up in my accent, there were a few little key phrases that kept showing up in my dialogue for a few weeks. It took a bit, and I knew it needed to be put to bed, and recover. It was physically really challenging. We got thrown around a few times. I had to. There were bruises. There's some things.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah. But again, so worth it. So worth it.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing. Okay, we have 2 more questions. Let's pull up the next one. Okay, Kyle says, what was one live performance moment that stopped you in your tracks? And anyone can answer if you have a moment that comes to mind.
I shared mine already, so
yeah, that was great.
I'll share one while Papa's trying to think of one.
Okay.
At the very end of the play, after I've had the moment where I confronted the Nazi guard and had to make a decision to forgive him, I'm in a train station and I have a suitcase. And Pete wove a theme throughout the whole play about suitcases. And when Corrie and Betsie were little, Papa would take them on train trips. And at one point, he made the point. He asked Corrie to pick up the suitcase for him, and she said, "It's too heavy." He said, "That's right." And he made the correlation. There's some things in life that I will not ask you to carry until you are old enough to carry it, until you have some age on you, some wisdom on you. Yeah, you can see there the opening train station scene. The suitcases are a theme that Pete and Matt built into the storytelling. So at the very end, I'm in that train station alone. The Nazi guard that I have encountered is gone. And I'm standing there, I'm going to get on the train, and I'm about to go tell the world what the Lord did in Ravensbrück through Betsie and me. And Matt had Papa John come out as though he was there in my memory one last time. And this is not in the script. Pete didn't write this in, and Matt didn't tell me to do it. But I had the inspiration in the moment to keep my eyes on Papa John and at the same time reach down and show him that I could pick it up this time and I could carry it. And John looked at me like, I got you, girl. I'm proud of you. Yes, you can carry that suitcase now. And that was the end of the play. I turned and walked into the light. And I don't know how many times I've relived that moment. That moment stopped me in my tracks. Wow. And I'll be laying in bed at night trying to go to sleep, and I'll think of it. It'll hit me at the strangest times. But I've told John, it's a theater moment for me that I don't know that will ever be surpassed as far as something that touches me so deeply, and the joy and the privilege to do a scene like that with Papa John. It's once in a lifetime.
Wow.
Oh, bless you. My very briefly, my moment that stopped me in my tracks was on offstage moment. Normally, I would go back to the dressing room and study my lines for the next scene, given my memory, which I put on display tonight. And I then, this particular matinee, I went into the green room, and there they had a large television with you could see the production on the television screen in-house. And I saw the set for the first time from an audience point of view.
Yeah.
And it was magical. It was beautiful, because all I knew was lights staring me in the face on stage, and I never saw what was behind me, really. Mm-hmm. And so this was revelatory, to actually see the play from the audience point of view. It was totally different than what we carry in our mind and vision on stage. Completely different. And it literally did stop me, and my jaw dropped.
Wow.
Love that.
Thank you for sharing.
And then I missed my entrance. But that's the way
Such is the theater. That's incredible.
I love it. I think for me, it was really interesting, and I won't go into the depth of it, but from the very beginning, this piece was so personal because the sisters reminded me of my great-grandmother and her twin sister. And it's their personalities and everything are identical, and the timeline of their life is so similar, and the hardship. But there's something about the moment we found in Tech when right before Corrie's coming back to the clock shop, and before she walks in the door, Nan ran her hand across the frosted glass of the sign that says Corrie Tillis. And it's just like, because all those little things you were talking about, Carrie, the clocks and the pieces, I actually had 2 grandmother's clocks in the mix because it meant something to me. These things hold memories and value, and I believe in it. And I know that sounds crazy, but all together, it just felt something so precious and something so missed. And also the veil between the worlds, between our world and spiritual. It felt like that to me. And it just was embodied 1,000% through that just gesture through the frosted glass. Yeah. And it's one of my favorite little human moments,
Yeah. Wow. I want to watch it again now after hearing all these moments.
Yeah.
It's so special. Pete, did you have something you wanted to add?
For me, I think, because I have the benefit of seeing almost every show.
Yeah.
And live theater is different every single night. Mm-hmm. And the way that the story is structured, like it's all aimed at this encounter at the train station at the end of the show where Corrie meets this Nazi and has to decide whether or not to forgive him. And it was different every night. The subtle interplay between Nan and the actor and the audience, like you could hear the audience gasp like every night, and people, didn't know like what to make of what was about to happen. And we talked a lot about it in rehearsal. Like, I felt like if Nan forgives him too easily, it feels cheap. And if she forgives him too stingily, it doesn't feel real. And we kind of talked about how what we really wanted was for the audience to walk out at the end and maybe not quite know what they thought about that moment. I wanted it to follow people home and keep them up that night and keep them thinking about it 3 days later. And so it was a real pleasure every night to just watch this subtle, silent moment between Nan and Ben or Jonah, who were playing the Nazi, and how that all came together in subtly different ways and how the audience experienced it. It was really magical.
Wow.
And so we heard many people were having those questions and wrestling. We did hear from people. They put on the cloak. They were trying to carry the suitcase or seeing if they'd even pick it up. They were going there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. How incredible to have. It's a beautiful story that you were able to, tell on the stage, and then to also see it have an impact on the people that come to watch it and to hear about those experiences. If there's anyone at home that's watched this, I'd love to hear from you in the comments, your experiences with watching it, because we got to experience it as well on film, which, I just think it'd be really cool to hear from more people how it kind of impacted them personally. We do have one more question for you all tonight. Let's pull that one up. Let's see. Okay, Jenny says, if you could say something to Corrie today, what would it be? Great question, Jenny.
I think I'd be speechless.
Yeah.
Oh, I would tell her thank you.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ditto.
I mean, I think my answer is, I don't know that there's anything I want to say to her. I would just want to listen to her.
Oh, yeah.
And if I can
story.
take this moment, I know as we're towards the end, there was a scene, and I won't go into the long story of it, but it was an additional thing that we added through a wonderful actress who joined our company that is of the Jewish faith. And I think at all moments, our greatest fear was to think that in some way we would not honor the people of the Jewish faith respectably. I mean, this was a story of a Christian family who did something for these incredible people.
Yeah.
But we struggled with how much we can tell in one moment and how much we can do, and really wanting to go, we cannot minimize the people we're talking about them saving. We cannot in any way. And so I was so delighted to hear from a friend of mine who called me and wanted tickets again. And he spoke to me about it, and he was very honored with the way we spoke of the Jewish people and the way that we portrayed the Jewish people. And one of them, we added a scene where Deborah, who is Jewish, and she has a very close story to the Holocaust, and it was the power of her personal story that really brought to life that we needed to have a moment where she lit the candles and did the Friday night prayer.
Yes.
And it was, it's so small, you could have gone to the restroom and missed it. But I just hope, and I know Pete does, and I know everyone on this group, our hope would be that our love for the Jewish people came through in this presentation as well. Yeah. And that's not something we took lightly in any degree.
Yeah. When you started talking, that was the scene that came to my mind, was it felt like there was depth to those characters
Mm.
as well, that you could feel the care for every one of them. And I think that's special that you added that in there.
Well, it was almost later a bookend,
Yeah.
parallel to when they are in the concentration camp and doing communion. That there was a moment that in really being hidden in the Ten Boom family, they got to hold their religion and their traditions
Yeah.
that were so secretive. They got to do it with this family, and I know it would have meant so much. I know stuff like that happened. You know, I mean, it may not have been from a passage, but a moment, and I know it would have meant so much to the Jewish people to be, as John said before, to be seen and to really be seen in a moment of crisis.
Yeah.
And that's really what the Ten Booms were doing at a large degree.
Yeah. Well, we have a special video that we want to play for you guys. Our CEO. Oh, it's a quote. I'm so sorry. The live stream. They're helping me out here. We have a quote that we want to share. Our CEO Neil Harmon, co-founder, he actually saw the show. He went and saw it, so he just had something he wanted to share. Yeah, he had something he wanted to share with you guys. So we're gonna put that on the screen right now. So it's co-founders Neil and his wife Trisha. They said, Trisha and I, fans of the book The Hiding Place, attended the Fathom event stage play with excitement and doubt, unsure if it could capture the book's depth on screen. We found a bold stage-to-screen fusion with striking symbolism, fine production, and stellar acting, forging a new genre. Made for the camera, it captivates. We're thrilled that the Guild voted for it too. Spend an evening with this story. You'll be enriched by Corrie Ten Boom's example. So it looks like they went to the Fathom event stage play and saw that. And
That's wonderful.
They loved
I
it.
love that.
And so, yeah.
Thanks, Neil and Trisha.
Yes,
Yeah. And
thank you.
it's a specific compliment too. I love that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Thank you.
And thank you to the Guild, that home, all of you joining us that saw this film, this adaptation, and said, we want the world to see it. I think it's a really cool, special thing that we talked about, how the audience that came to the play, they had the reactions and they were telling you about it. And then it's just so cool to be able to have it filmed and also to be able to be in people's homes and to see it kind of spread even further than where we could reach in a theater. So thank you, everybody, for helping put this together so that we could all see it and experience the story.
Great. It was a good party.
Well, I also just want to say thank you to Angel Studios and the Guild. You guys have been wonderful, and we're thrilled to be part of this, and I'm just really grateful for you guys.
Oh, thank you for that. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today and having such a wonderful conversation, and spending the evening with me and our friends here at home. It was so special to meet you and to really feel the love you have for this story as well. So thank you again, and I hope that you all have a wonderful evening.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Allie.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
See ya.
And for those of you at home, thank you for being here with us tonight. This was so special. It was wonderful to hear the conversation between the cast and the crew. Again, if you have not seen The Hiding Place, you should go right now. The link's on the screen down there at angel.com/10boomguild, or scan the QR code. Now's the time. Go watch it. You will not regret it. It's a beautifully powerful cinematic experience like we were talking about. You're going to love seeing those transitions from the stage to the film. I'm so excited for you to see it. And thank you again to our current Guild members that brought this movie to Angel. We appreciate all that you do for us. We hope that you've enjoyed this live stream tonight. I always enjoy my time with you. We will be posting on our social media, so keep an eye on Angel's socials for more info coming soon about upcoming Guild release live streams just like this one. We're doing a lot of them, so keep an eye out. It's so fun. And we'd like to give you a little bit more tonight. We figured you'd like to see even more of a sneak peek into the film other than just, the show tonight. So we are going to show you the first 20 minutes of The Hiding Place right now. So stick around, enjoy, and then if you like what you see, go check out the rest of the film. Have a wonderful evening and enjoy the first 20 minutes of The Hiding Place.
Listen. We are in the silence now. The silence between two ticks of the clock. Listen. Time is the canvas on which the maker paints the strokes of his clock. And I have spent my life in the minutiae of its workings. Each piece spins and springs and lifts its hands to its maker. Listen. Justice, suffering, hope, despair, forgiveness, despite. Their great engines are whirring all around us, and the more powerless one is to control them, the closer she is to the mystery that sets them in motion. The child, the woman, the daughter, the sister, the watchwoman, the whatever it is she must become. Listen with me now, do you hear? The silence is ending. The chains begin to creak. awaits this end. Watch.
Betsie, where have I put my shoes? Did you look in the parlor? Papa? Papa, where are you? Shh, quiet, Corrie. Mama's sleeping. But Papa said we could go with him this morning. He hasn't left, has he? It's still dark outside. Wait for me, Betsie.
What is this? Where am I? What's going on?
Cornelia Arnolda Johanna Tinbu. Have I got that right? Won't you sit? It's nearly spring, don't you know? The daffodils are peeking out, the tulips will be up before long. Where did you say you were from? Ah, Harlem, yes?
Yes, Harlem.
Welcome to the Bay. Come in, come in. One moment. We have a customer. Willem. Corrie. We have a train to catch, I'm afraid. Willem!
I was in Harlem only a few days ago. In fact, I came home with more bulbs than I had any right to. I suspect my flower garden will get more out of this trip than the Reichville. Do you grow flowers, Fräulein?
Yes. Well, no. My sister does, in window boxes.
Yes, of course, a sister, Elizabeth.
Look, Corrie, it has to be buried before it can grow. We plant the bulb in the fall. When the spring comes, we'll have tulips.
Thank you, Betsie. Would you go and fetch Willem for me?
Yes, Papa.
Betsie?
Yes, of course, Betsie. And where is she?
I don't know. I haven't seen her since...
Yes. Since you arrived here. And how long is that now?
119 days.
Well, then perhaps I can help you. Perhaps I can help your sister as well.
What about my father? Do you know where he is?
Papa, wait!
I'm sorry, Corrie, but you must stay. I need you to help your Tante Jans and Wilhelm while we're gone. Betsie will come with me this time.
But she always gets to go, and I always get left behind. It's not fair. Papa, she can go on my place, I don't mind.
No, Betsie, you will come with me as planned. Corrie, you must stay. I need you to see that the watches keep ticking and the lights stay on while we're gone. Do you understand?
No, I don't.
I want to come with you.
I know you don't understand, but I need you to be a big girl now.
But why?
Oh, well, you see my suitcase there. Bring it to me.
It's too heavy, Papa. I can't.
No, you can't. And what kind of a father do you think I'd be if I asked my daughter to carry something she hadn't the strength to bear?
I don't understand.
I know. But sometimes when we don't understand something, it's like that suitcase. It's too heavy. And you have to wait until you're bigger to lift it. You see? But you will, my little Corrie. And until then, you must trust that your papa loves you. Now then, come along, Betsie. We have a train to catch. And Corrie has work to do.
I will be truthful with you, Fräulein, as I hope you will be with me. We are already aware of everything that's transpired in your home over the past 2 years. But we wish to obtain a proper record, you see. To put it in the right order. Then, well, perhaps we go back to tending our flowers.
We've done nothing wrong.
Then come, Fräulein, tell me. What do you remember? Begin whenever you wish.
We were watchmakers. And watch keepers. For 100 years, people brought their clocks and watches for the fixing.
Aha! No time to waste.
My goodness, Papa will wake the whole street.
Yeah, all in perfect synchronicity, just as their makers intended. Mr. Janssens was off by 10 seconds, but I set it straight. Oh, Corrie, you'll have to keep an eye on it this afternoon, but the rest are ready to go home, I think.
While you two tend to your ticks and talks, I'll get the coffee on and see if I can manage breakfast to go with it.
Did you see Pickwick this morning? His watch is ready to be picked up.
I saw him, yes, but was helpless to distract him from the pastries in the grotto.
Oh, Lord, help a pastry if that man is within 1 mile of it.
Never mind, I'm sure he'll be by later. Oh, good morning, Willem.
But give your sister a kiss.
Corrie.
Have you left Tina at home again?
Oh, I'm afraid so.
I miss seeing her. You live too far away these days.
Well, children talk about you all the time. Where's Tante Corrie? I want Tante Corrie to tell me a story. Can we visit Tante Corrie?
Do you hear that, Papa? They miss me.
Oh, what?
Have you heard the radio this morning?
The radio?
What
Why?
is it now?
First it was Poland, then Norway and Denmark. It's only a matter of time before we hear the boots of the Reich in Harlem.
They won't dare. They left us alone during the Great War, didn't they?
Let the big countries fight it out. It's no trouble of ours.
Coffee is ready. Willem.
Coffee sounds marvelous.
Come in, there's breakfast if you'll stay.
Oh, I'd be glad of a bite now that I think of it.
Dass ich fleißig gewesen bin, dass ich gearbeitet habe, dass ich mich in diesen Jahren für dich eingesetzt habe, dass ich anständig...
What if Willem is right?
Let us pray that he is not.
Papa, are you ever afraid?
Afraid? Yes, but I wait for my ticket.
You wait for your what?
My ticket!
What in the world are you talking about?
Let's eat some breakfast. No time to waste.
Sit down.
Ah, thank you.
Sit
Thank
down.
you, dear.
Oh, Betsie, is this new?
Isn't it something? Mr. Witt was going to toss out this lovely swath of green. Can you imagine?
That's my Betsie. Always keeping something from the fire.
She once turned one of my old shirts into a pillow. Do you remember?
And now she's using several of your pillows to make my shirt.
Oh, Papa, don't tease.
Who says I'm teasing?
Coffee all around.
Ah, thank you, dear.
Fresh fruit from the market, bread from the oven, and a bit of Tante Jan's marmalade.
Ah, there's a reason to get up in the morning.
The food will be blessed first.
Of course, Papa.
Lord, you know what makes the planets spin. You know what makes my watches hum. You set the atoms dancing. And in your grace you bless our feast with marmalade. So tune our hearts to hear the tick and the tock of the vast engine of your mercy. Amen.
Amen. What brings you to town this morning, Willem?
I have some news.
Out with it, then.
Isn't he coy about it?
I'm leaving my position at the church.
What? But how can you, Willem?
I think ministry is not my calling after all.
But what will you do?
I've opened a home for the elderly.
The elderly.
There's a great need for it. There are more every day who need help.
Well, this is a surprise.
But it's a good surprise. Isn't that right, Papa?
I'm sorry, Papa, but the Lord has called me to new work.
Well, then you are right to follow it. Besides, there are enough bad preachers in the world. The lessening of their ranks is indeed the Lord's work.
I'm telling Pastor Liam you said that.
Well, someone ought to.
Corrie and I must come and visit.
Well, you'd best come quickly. Soon there'll be no beds left.
So many?
fleeing Germany. Oh, they despise the elderly there, and many are Jews.
Germany? Germany? That's all anyone will talk about these days. On the radio, in the newspapers, even at my own table.
I'm sorry, Papa.
Although I must admit, you're not the only one with news.
Well, what are you hiding, Papa?
Well, we shall have a new apprentice in the shop soon.
Well, I hope you haven't promised to pay him much.
No, a young man from out of town.
Out of town?
Well, where is he from?
From Germany?
What?
Germany?
Papa, how can you?
This bayet is open to any who knock. I will make no distinction between German or Dutch or Jew or anyone else. A young man needs lessons, and we will receive him. Who knows why a goose goes barefoot? Do you? We cannot know what good may come of it.
Papa's right. If he's one of these Nazis, then we'll receive him in kindness. Our hospitality shall be our protest. Isn't that right, Corrie?
I suppose so.
Window boxes.
What in the world are you going on
If
about?
we're to welcome a new guest, we must dress the window boxes and see they are spilling over with flowers.
Flowers for Nazis. She's gone mad at last.
Yeah.
Is it any wonder?
Nonsense. Window boxes are a wonder. Come with me, Corrie. The markets will be overflowing with tulips. We'll fetch the finest.
You go on. I've work to do in the shop. Papa will need my help.
Very well. But when this German arrives, he will be greeted with window boxes. Or I'm not Betsie 10 Boom.
Oh, she is a wonder.
I'm off then.
Well, give my love to Tina and the children.
Goodbye, Willem.
Goodbye.
Come, Papa. It's time to open.
Oh, no time to waste.
Guten Morgen.
Hello, may I help you?
I'm here to see Casper Tenboom. I have an appointment.
You must be Otto Schwarzhuber. Come for the furtherance of knowledge and experience.
Yes, from Berlin. Seems a marvel that I should find much to learn here in the nether reaches of Europe, but we shall see.
Well, perhaps you'll find more to appreciate here than you expect.
I doubt that. Is Tenboom about? I prefer not to have my time wasted. I'd like to get right to work.
This is Casper Tenboom, and we value manners here as well as good work.
I apologize, Fräulein. I expected someone younger. I trust my workbench is prepared.
Well, yes, of course, right over
Excellent.
here.
This will suffice. The first thing one learns in the Hitler use is efficiency. I will work as efficiently as possible, and I expect my time to be treated likewise.
Well, I don't know what kind of efficiency you're used to in Berlin, but in Harlem, you'll find courtesy is an efficacious quality in a young man.
Isn't this lovely, Corrie? How could anyone want to throw it out? I found it in the alley outside.
Oh, I'm not drinking anything out of that.
But it will make an irresistible flower pot. You just wait. Oh,
yes.
Hello, we haven't met. I'm Betsie, and you must be Papa's new apprentice.
Fräulein Tenboom.
There you are. Do you like it?
Otto was just telling us of the importance of his efficiency.
Really? Do tell.
I wish to assume my duties and proceed with my work as soon as possible. Would you put this elsewhere?
What do you mean?
The desk, like mine, functions best when uncluttered by that which is unuseful.
Unuseful? Well, if it's your position that flowers are useless, Then I suggest you've confounded your own argument by revealing the direst need for their use.
What?
Never mind. I'll put them over here, and you can use them whenever you find it most efficient to do so.
Let's stop wasting Otto's time and let him get to work. Well, you may begin with this fine old Swiss piece of Mr. Klantz. It will require a steady hand to repair it. Let's test those skills of yours, eh?
Pickwick!
Ladies, Casper.
How lovely to see you.
And you, as always, Corrie. I wonder, could I have a word with your father?
Well, if it's about your watch, he must approve the price with me before you leave. Do you hear that, Papa?
Not to worry, only a short word.
I'll put on some tea.
How may I help, then?
It's delicate, I'm afraid. Who's the stiff?
Oh, a new apprentice.
Can you trust him?
Well, I don't know why not. He's only just arrived, but I'm sure he'll work out. What's this delicate business, then?
It's Jews.
Jews? What about them?
Willem came to see you, yes?
Oh, he did.
People are fleeing Germany by the hundreds, Casper, the thousands. Most of them are Jews.
I've heard.
There's a family in my home, but we haven't room to keep them. I'm sending them to Willem's home for the elderly.
To Willem's?
Yes, but he can't take them until the end of the week. Could they stay with you for a few days? Only a few?
Well, yes, I suppose so, but...
But...
Well, it's Otto, he's German.
The stiff?
Yeah, Hitler Youth, I'm afraid.
I thought you said you could trust him.
Well, I only meant generally. I didn't know you were going to ask about Jews.
Never mind. It's no good. Do you think he heard?
No. He's very diligent.
I have to go. Forget what I said. I'll find other arrangements.
A moment, please. This Mr. Pickwick, was it? I don't seem to have that name in my notes. Who is he?
Pickwick? Only a friend. No one of any account.
And do you know what he and your father spoke about? Every detail could be important, Fräulein. Any little bit of information could be the key I need to help you and your family.
Their business was that of the town, the people. Who was in need? Who could be helped, and how? There's nothing criminal in that.
That remains to be seen.
We hope you enjoyed that sneak peek. To continue watching the full movie and gain VIP access to our entire library, join the Angel Guild. What is the Angel Guild? The Angel Guild is a group of hundreds of thousands of people like you transforming the industry. We want you to become a guild voter and greenlight our next hit project. Most films are greenlit by a few corporate elites. Ours are greenlit by you. At Angel, we cannot release a project unless it's been approved first by the Angel Guild. You get to have a voice in changing the film industry with stories that amplify light. Angel Guild members have greenlit shows like The Wingfeather Saga, The King of Kings, and Tuttle Twins, shows that are teaching children positive messages of family, faith, and building a hopeful future. We believe in telling excellent, meaningful stories. Your membership directly contributes to the production of more projects, allowing filmmakers to make more quality shows faster. Our goal is to reach 1 million members in the Angel Guild. This will allow us to fund up to 5 seasons of TV shows like The Wingfeather Saga, Tuttle Twins, and others on a continual basis. In addition, your Angel Guild membership also grants you bonuses and perks that we are constantly adding to. Perks like complimentary movie tickets to every new Angel release in theaters, Guild early access to film and TV shows before they're made free to watch, opportunities to give your feedback to filmmakers, Guild exclusive live streams, discounts on Angel merch, and so much more. Join the Angel Guild today and help us make movies that matter to our children, our families, and the world. Welcome to the future of entertainment.